name is Frederick. I am the CEO of Rooker and also leading the design and development for Geometra alongside my lovely colleagues here at Rooker. What I wanted to show today was just a quick introduction of how to get started with Geometra, and let's get right into it. So we're going to start up by creating a demo project, which we need. I'm going to use Euro as my currency here. This brings me straight into what we call the drive, where you can just upload all of your drawings and create folders. So we could do a folder that we call drawings, and in that folder I can then upload a floor plan. So right here we have this. So when working in Drive, we have this preview where we can see what we're looking at for this file. So what we're going to start off with, in this case, we're going to create a small estimate. So we're going to make some, this is an office building. So we're going to make a small estimate for renovating and redecorating this. And so let's open that up. And this brings us into what we call the estimate view. So just browsing around and looking at this, we have some offices in the outer ring here. We have some like copy material storage. We have a huge, this is actually an old bunker building. So there's a huge archive section in the middle. We got some kitchen, lunchroom, conference room, and some bathrooms, and some technical stuff for ventilation and electricity here. So I think that we should just start off with creating the basic structure that we're going to use for this. So I just right click here and let's do journal areas. So call that G00. And I also want something called offices. We call that O00. I don't actually want that under that. So, and then we have miscellaneous areas or rooms. We call them rooms. We call that M00. And then we have bathrooms and showers. And let's call them W for wet rooms. So now that I have this very basic structure, in this case what I need, we're going to start off by placing a scale here, and this allows us to configure the scale that we're going to use as a base when measuring this. And then we just start. So we might as well just start with the offices. I'll pick an area, and I will call this office, and then I can just keep going here. So what I do is I left click and then I right click diagonally from this, and you can see this small square that follows me around and attaches itself. That's a snap-on guideline. So that lets me quite easily hit what I want. So I'm picking up all of the offices. I'm also using shift scroll to move sideways instead of just scrolling regularly up and down. So bring out all of these. And as you can see, the numbers are just going up here. So what Geometra usually does is we use something that we call the inheritance, which means that when I start working on something, I set a couple of base parameters like colors, names, number tags. So what we could do now, we could just take all of these and rename them. Oops. These we want. We rename this office. So now it'll ask me, do you want to change the name to office for all of these? Sure. And that's done. So now we have all of our offices. So that's quick. Let's close that down and look at some bathrooms. Now to distinguish these from the offices, we're going to change the color. So we're going to make them blue and can have a nice pink outline. And then I'll just redo this. And as you can see now, it will keep placing them and keep the color. And this is a handicap bathroom. So I'm going to call it HWC. And then we have a cleaning room where we can have cleaning equipment. And we're going to call that like this. So now we have a couple of pieces. We're going to need some more, right? So let's go to the miscellaneous rooms. I'm going to bring up and do data here, which is where the incoming internet connection is available. And we're going to make that a nice shade of orange with a teal line. And we also have some more data here. And then materials. There we go. We have a storage room. I'm going to call that storage. And we also have this huge bunker room. This is actually quite fun. This is one of those public safe rooms that are available all over Ystad where we have our offices. The reason we know this is actually our old office. We used to sit here back in the day. And this is Electricity Central. Right, so did we get everything? Yeah, so let's move on to the general areas. So we have the entry here. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because now we have this huge corridor. And what you can see me doing here is I pick every corner and every section of wall that goes out from this, because that actually allows me to later on I can remove all of the spacing that is between them. I can just keep going around here indefinitely. And at some point here you will see this area come together. Let's go back up here. Now what you want to do is you go in and you grab this. And as you can see, there's a little bit thinger going on here, which could be a bit messy. So we have what we call markers. So every piece of the line for this corridor has been marked with a number. So you can see this section right here, that's wall 21. And if I go down here, you can see that the wall surface of wall 21 is 31.128 square meters. And we're going to come back to this because we can actually use these sections of wall individually to create our estimate. So we want to, this is it's basically a coat room. Let's just call this coat room. And then we have, which is strange, but we have another coat room. It's nice. And then we have a conference room. So here we will just have to choose which parts we think are most representative for where the coat room begins and ends. Or the conference room, sorry. Conference room. And that will be 5. And then we have a lunch room. It's the same thing that goes here. We pick what we think we need. And this can be a little bit tricky, but because we have the refrigerator and the freezer. And depending on what you're estimating, of course, you will do this slightly differently. So, kitchen, lunchroom. but we want to change the colors of all of them. So we can just click the folder and then we can set the color to yellow. That'll ask us if we want to change everything. And there we go. So now we have all of the basics up and running for this. Now what we're going to do in the next step is we're going to take this and then we are going to start creating some estimation rows. And these allow us to define things like floors, oak parquets. So let's start up with the offices. In all of the offices we want to place oak parquet, right? So let's go with floor. Just start typing floor. And that gives me the base. The first thing you type will always end up in segment. And segment is where do you want to do this? So what are we going to do? We're going to lay parquet floor. And then we're going to have oak parquet. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to type NA. And that gives me the net area for each individual office and applies that to each individual office. So when I do this tab, you can now see I got 135. That is the sum of all of the offices. Square meters, I'm going to put 59 euros per square meter. And we're going to take 8 minutes. So right now we have all of the parquet floors. So if you go in and look at an individual office like this one, you can now see that this is 14.371. And Geometra works in a way that what you see is what you get. So if you select something and you select something else, like in this case I've selected 7 offices, you're going to get the sums for those 7 offices, rows and values out on the properties pane. We're also going to redo the walls. We're going to give them a fresh coat of paint. So it's going to paint walls. White, I'm going to use an SO500N. It's probably something like this. And I'm going to use NV. So that's net walls. We're using V because V is the letter that wall starts with in Swedish. So that's a bit of a Swedish thing going on there. We're still going to use square meters, and we are also going to do, so we're going to want 29 euros a pop, and it's going to take 7 minutes. Now, looking at all of these offices, all of them have a door. So what we're going to do is we're going to type NV, and then we're going to reduce that by 1.89. So now you can see that the net wall surface is actually 430 square meters, but we reduced each row with 1.89 square meters, which is equivalent to a door. So right now, just by typing that in here, we can see that all of these got individually 1 door reduced per room. And as a general thing, we can also see that we have 3 offices with 3 windows, so we can just select those 3 and we can add those here. So let's do 1.2 times, we can do this in brackets, or parentheses, sorry. So we do 1.2 times 1.3 and times 3, because we have 3 of them. So now those are done, and then we can go back in and we pick the rest of the offices. We don't want that. So we have 10 offices, that makes sense. And in this case, we do negative or minus 1.2 times 1.3 times 2, because we have 2 windows in each of them. And looking now, we reduce this from 430 to 361. And that will also reduce the price and the time needed, so we don't overestimate the amount required. Now, in the bathrooms and shower sections, we are going to want to use some kind of insert the rows. We're going to use lay carpet. Well, not carpet. We're going to lay plastic floor. And we're going to use linoleum 2044, which we assume is a color that we want. And we're going to use NA as well. That is a little bit cheaper, so it's going to come in at 44 euros. It also is a little bit easier to do, so it's just 5 minutes. And then we're going to look at this, and you can say, because this is what it is, these are a little bit more difficult, so we might want to increase this actually to 10 minutes per square meter. And then we can actually go do the walls as well. And what you see, what happens here, as you maybe noticed, is that when I click this, I get a suggestion, and these are suggestions that I have already used in this project. So we can go and look and see that we want to paint these walls as well. So we can actually reuse one of the formulas that I used, and we can get the entire formula like this. And instead of doing this, we can just remove that part because we don't want that. And we can change this to white shine 20, which is the typical shine that's used in these types of rooms. And we can insert them. And there we go. So now we've got some paint on the walls in these as well. And that paint is water resistant. And in the general areas, we want to actually have some parquet floor as well. But we're going to have that as a class 2. So it's or a 3-rod. We can use a 3-rod actually. So 3-rod parquet in those parts. So that's done. Which also means that we should probably update this and tell us that we're going to use a 2-rod in the offices, right? So that's done. And for these, we are going to use plastic floors. So now we have those. We're also going to paint them, but we are going to do it a little bit differently. So what we can do here is we have a I'm going to want a white paint with shine 7. We're going to want to remove at least one door from each, right? Because we need to be able to enter them. And then we can look at the bunker room. I actually named this in Swedish, so this is for ventilation. So the bunker room, we are going to want to remove an additional door, so times 2. And the rest of them have just one door. Data copy actually don't have a door. So this is, right here is an opening that we would technically want to reduce. So what we can do, we have the select tool. I'm going to alt click this, and I got an extra point here. So bring that point down to align it, and then I insert another one. Oops, place that back. So take this, we place that there, and now we can see that section 2 of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And if you find these markers, you can disable them. You can also change the orientation for them. So you can change them to always face the correct way, so to speak. And what we want to do here is, since we're using the entire wall surface, we're going to do minus V2. So now we just remove the square meters for this opening, which I placed 2 points for. So that's it. And now we go, boom, and we're done. So here is the complete estimate for new floors and new wall paint for this office. The next thing we can do is that we want to make sure that we look at this and say, okay, but we want to change out some materials, but we want to keep this. So let's go up here to what we call the quick switch, and we have our tender, so we can do a duplicate of that, switch to it, and so now we have a tender copy. So we have the same data in both of them right now, so we're going to make a change. So we're going to call this tender alternate or alternative solution. Oops, sorry, that's safe. And now, so if you go back here, so you can switch. So now you have the tender, and you go back here, you have the tender alternative. So let's just select everything. We use Control A, and then we're going to remove this. And we're going to say this, we want to use a 3 rod for this as well. And what's going to happen now, if you look at this, it's going to merge these 2 rows. Because now we have a new total for them. And that also made me aware that we forgot to change the price on the first one. Since we did do them as 2 rods, these are not actually 49 anymore. They are 59. So the full price for this is 39,580. It takes 133 hours. And if we go and look at the alternative, it is going to be slightly cheaper, I think. It's going to take the same amount of time because we didn't actually change the time between these. Hang on. $39,500, yeah. And this was 38,000 something, right? Yeah. Now, if we want to look at these more in depth and see what we can actually do, let's go to the first one. So we're going to select everything. So we're going to do Control A, and then I'm going to select all of the rows, and then we're going to hit Export Rows Selection. Copy that to clipboard, and then I've prepared a Excel file here, just an empty workbook, and I'm going to paste values. Just press Control V using the web version, and bring that back in. We can see that we have a Geometra export from demo project. It's the tender, it's done by me, and what time, and we have every row that we created here. So what you can do is you can Control Shift mark these left and right down, and then press Control, or you can do Insert Table. We have headers, so we have taglines for this. And what you can do now is now you have the option to just click Price, go to Home, press Auto Sum. So now you can see the price. So 39,579 euros. So we have that. You can see how we came to this conclusion. You can also see from which drawing we got the data. And you can see here where that data existed. So if we want to do a subset in here, we can say, I just want to look at the offices for now. And they are 18,479.9. So we can show everything. Let's go and do the same for the options. So we go here. We select the alternative. Control A, select everything. Select all the rows. And Geometra exports work with what you have selected is what you're going to get. So if you only wanted to bring out the offices, for instance, you could just click this folder and select this row. And this would just result in the subset of data that is just the offices. But in terms of what we're trying to do or showcase right now is that we're going to take all of this. We're going to hop in. We're going to paste that. We're going to do Control Shift right and down, which is just interval selection in, and then we're going to do Insert Table. And now we can do this. So bring out the offices, because this is where we have the difference, right? And since we're using a table, we can always use the auto sum. So 17,122. So we go in here, and we bring out the offices, and we can see that we have 18,479. So this is how we can easily use Excel as an extra tool to check whether or not we have the correct data. It's also a good way to bring this data onwards into a different application. If you're using some other estimation tool or other software to bring this together, that's also an easy way to go by doing it. As a final note, I'm just going to show you this because, as you can see here, we have some symbols here, and these are the workflow symbols. And you can use this in different ways. So let's say that I am currently in the state where we are doing we're bidding for this project. So I want to make sure that I have done all of my calculations. And so since I'm done, I could set that I have completed calculating on this drawing. So in the case I have 50 drawings, I could flag them one by one and make sure I keep track of how far I've gone. And also we could use the same principle here. So let's say, okay, we reviewed this, and we've made sure that the documentation and the descriptions for what the work that needs to be done in these are complete. So we can say complete. In the case of the offices, they're still up and about, and we have some questions for the customer. So we can say these are still in review phase because we have outstanding things that we do not know or we are seeking answers to. So that's also one way to use the status. And this is how you can use this in the estimation phase. Now, what happens is if let's say we win this bid, we want to take this on, what we could do then is we can say, okay, we won the bid, so let's lock it in. That means we can't accidentally change anything inside this estimate, which also means we have the original data intact for what we did to win this bid and what the price that we gave to the customer is, what it entails and what there's in part of it, right? And then I duplicate it again and I get another copy. So we're going to rename this. I'm going to say production. And I'm going to switch to production. And now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the status on these. And I can reset the status on this as well. So now we have nothing started. And let's say it's the 5th day of the project, and we know that, okay, we need to get started with the general areas because those are the ones that we're going to go for first. So what we can do is we can say, okay, so we have people that have done work in these. Let's say they haven't started the conference room and the lunchroom yet. So the entries, the corridors, and the code rooms, that's where they're at, right? So we can set those as in progress. And we also have some work being done in these 3. So we set those in progress. And now it's easy for a project manager to follow up and see how far along am I. So what you can do, you can use the filter at the top and you can say, I just want to see what we're currently working on. So I will click off anything and you say, okay, so these are the rooms that we are currently working in. Or in the same sense, you can just say, I want to see what haven't we started. Bring those back. And you can also do that individually. So let's say for miscellaneous rooms, we have started work in 3 and we are still not started in 4 of them. I can actually do that on a folder level. I can see, okay, which rooms haven't we started? Oh, it's these 4. Or these 3 we have started. And the same can be used for the review phase. So let's say that we're actually done and we're just waiting for a project manager to inspect this work and make sure that we have completed everything. We could just flag these as they need reviewing. Or the customer has approached us and said, I would like to change out the colors for the walls or something in the lunchroom and the conference room. And we could just say review, and that signals to us that we need to go back and look at these again. Either from our own perspective of are we finished, or we got a message from the customer saying we need to go back and look at these 2 because we might want to change the colors or something. So that's also how you can bring this bid that we won, we bring that into production and make sure that we can just keep working here. So, and we have Geometra also supports this sort of field mode or viewer mode. So what you could do, because right now we can edit and change anything, we can change all the rows and such. If we switch this over to a viewer mode, you would be able to just do the exports and change the status. So you could actually send this to somebody working in the field and they could bring this up on their laptop and they could just flag everything. So if you want the cost estimators to just have all of the power and the control of what we place in the estimate, you can then set project managers as viewers and they could just go in and update the status and use that to track the progress. They can also use subsets of data in exports to maybe know how much materials they need to order. So what they can do then is they can go in and they can export, and we could just say, I want to see the sum for the paint. How much is that? So let's go in here, just paste that and see, okay, I need 361 square meters of paint. So that makes it easy to just recalculate that to, okay, we do 5 square meters per liter, and then we know how much liter we need. So there's different approaches, different ways to use this. Also, if you want to make some more proper documentation for things, you can go in and let's, just for the sake of it, let's do this. Let's turn off our markers. And we can say that we want to show, and we want to create a working document for the people doing the floors. So we say, like, enable the net area surfaces for these two. And now those show up. And you can see that we are fairly on point here. We can also add additional information or change the way these are displayed. So we can change the color, the sizing. We can make this really big if we want. Like this. We can put it back down to 6. We can make it bold if that's easier to look at. And this multi-edit dialog that shows up every time, it's a safeguard, but you can actually turn it off if you're feeling brave. That way you can just change this without having to confirm each change if that's what you want. So that's a brief introduction to Geometra and what you can do with it. There are a million more ways to use this. The best thing about it is there's a free trial. So grab your free trial, reach out to our support team, who's available in the support widget down on the right, or you could just call us or email us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you everyone for watching this and have a really great day. And if there's any questions, you know where to find us. Goodbye.